cabin walls groan as the wind picks up outside. Dust dances across the cracked wooden floor, moving in patterns like ghosts too shy to be seen. Inside, the dim light from the fireplace flickers, casting long shadows on the walls. The woman's breath is shallow, her hand pressed against the rough surface of the table, gripping it like she might shatter the wood. She feels the cold air brushing against her face as she shifts her weight, moving slowly, carefully. Her body is raw from hours of labor, and yet she doesn't scream. "You're doing fine," the scout says quietly. His voice is steady, the words sparse but heavy. She nods, clenching her teeth. The pain is unbearable, but she forces herself to breathe. She's not sure who he is, only that he's been here before, an uninvited shadow who knows how to navigate the dark corners of the world. His presence is strangely comforting in a way she doesn't understand. He moves with purpose, his hands steady as he helps her through each wave of agony. "Just hold on," he murmurs again, but the words don't seem to have meaning. She doesn't need him to talk. She just needs him to stay. Her fingers tighten around his wrist as the baby's head finally begins to crown. She doesn't know how long she's been here, alone with him in this small cabin. Time is blurred, and all that's left is the unbearable pressure, the rhythmic pain, and the feeling that she is part of something ancient and unknowable. "One more push," he says, his voice barely above a whisper. She exhales, every muscle in her body shaking, and then with a final desperate push, the baby is born. There's a silence that follows, a thick, suffocating silence. The baby is placed in her arms, its first cry cutting through the stillness. She looks down at the small, fragile life, tears welling in her eyes. But the tears aren't just from joy. There's something else, something heavier. The scout steps back, his eyes dark, unreadable. He doesn't congratulate her, doesn't make a sound. His presence, once quiet and comforting, now feels like an intrusion, an uncomfortable reminder of something lost. She holds the baby against her chest, feeling the warmth of its tiny body. The weight of the moment hangs in the air, but she can't shake the feeling that she's alone in a way she's never been before. She doesn't ask him to stay. She knows he won't. Without a word, the scout turns, heading for the door. The fire crackles, but the warmth doesn't reach her. The door opens with a soft creak, and he steps into the night, disappearing into the shadows without so much as a glance back. She watches him leave, her baby still in her arms. The silence that follows is deafening. There's no sound, except the fire snapping, the wind outside, and the soft breathing of the child. She feels the weight of the world on her shoulders. This is all she has now. A cabin, a child, and a ghost of a man who vanished as quietly as he arrived. The baby stirs in her arms, its tiny face scrunching as it seeks her warmth, its first cry still echoing in the small room. She looks down at it, her heart aching. This child is her future, her only future, but the emptiness left by the scout remains, lingering in the corners of the room and in her chest. She sways gently, holding the baby closer. The wind outside howls like a distant call, but inside, there's only silence. The cabin is still. The world outside, untouched. But here, in the small space they occupy, everything is changing. Her fingers curl around the baby, holding it close as the last remnants of the scout's presence fade into the night. The cabin creaks under the weight of silence. The air inside is thick, a feeling of stagnation that no breeze can lift. She moves from room to room, her every step a slow, deliberate rhythm, one that has become part of the house, just like the dust that gathers in corners. The fire flickers in the hearth, but it's not enough to chase the chill from her bones. Her eyes fall on the crib where her son sleeps, his face peaceful, unaware of the weight that's crushed her since that night. She pauses by the window, staring out into the darkness, the same darkness that swallowed him 5 years ago. She doesn't know why she waits for him, even after all this time. Maybe she just wants to hear his footsteps again, or see his figure in the distance, but the road remains empty. Always empty. "Mama." She turns sharply, her heart jolting at the sound of her son's voice. He stands in the doorway, rubbing his eyes, his small body just as worn as hers. "Go back to bed," she murmurs, her voice tight. "But I'm hungry," he says, his voice a mixture of innocence and impatience. She exhales, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand, and moves to the cupboard. The tin cans rattle as she pulls one down. It's the same routine. Heat, serve, watch him eat. She doesn't speak while he eats, and he doesn't ask questions. Not yet. "Mama," he says again, looking up at her, eyes wide. "When's Pa coming home?" The question stings like an open wound, and for a moment, her chest tightens. She doesn't know how to answer. He's never known the man who left, never known the weight of the silence that followed. How could she explain that the man who was supposed to be his father was a ghost, never to be seen again? "I told you," she says, her voice sharper than she intends. "He's gone." Her son looks down at his plate, pushing the food around. He's too young to understand. She wonders if he'll ever ask again, or if this is just a fleeting curiosity that will disappear once his mind forgets. He doesn't look at her as he finishes, and when he's done, he climbs into the old bed they share, curling up into the warmth of the covers. She pulls the quilt around them both, but it's not enough to keep out the cold. She lies there, staring at the ceiling, waiting for sleep to take. Her, but it doesn't come, not tonight. The quiet hums in her ears, louder than it should be, filling the cabin with an oppressive weight. Every part of her longs for the sound of a voice, of a man who might have held her once, but now feels as distant as the stars. She had been foolish to think he might come back. Her hand rests on her son's head, but her mind drifts back to that night. The door opened. The cold air is sweeping in. The emptiness that followed. She wants to blame him, wants to scream at him for leaving her like this, but there's no point, no voice to shout it to. The house is too quiet, and even her resentment feels like it's swallowed by the darkness. "Mama?" His voice is soft, pulling her back. She blinks and looks down at her son, whose eyes are half open. "I want to know about Pa," he says, his words slow, hesitant. "Where did he go?" The question lingers in the air, and she feels the weight of it pressing down on her chest. She can't answer. Not now. Not ever. She has no answers. She doesn't even know where he went, only that he disappeared into the night and never came back. "I don't know," she whispers, her voice breaking as she pulls him closer. He doesn't respond, curling deeper into her side. She doesn't push him away, not this time. She wonders if he knows the truth, if he somehow learned to read the silence between them, the weight of the unspoken. The night stretches on, long and endless. She's awake long after her son falls asleep, his breathing steady against her side. She stares into the dark, the same dark that swallowed him, and wonders if she'll ever find an answer, or if the silence will be the only thing left. Somewhere in the distance, the wind howls. It's always howling, a constant reminder of what's missing. She swallows the bitter taste in her throat and closes her eyes. The silence is all she has now, but it's never enough. The knock on the door comes early, loud, sharp, and insistent. Her heart skips, instinctively knowing who it is, even before she hears the heavy boots on the porch. She doesn't want to answer it, doesn't want to face the man whose presence brings nothing but questions she can't answer. The knock comes again, louder this time. She rises slowly from her chair, the weight of her bones heavier than it should be. Her hands shake slightly as she reaches for the door, the smooth wood cool under her touch. The sheriff stands there, his broad shoulders filling the doorway. He doesn't smile. Never does. His badge catches the light, glinting like the last piece of authority in a world that's losing its meaning. "I need to speak with you, ma'am," he says, his voice low, deliberate. She nods, stepping aside to let him in, though she knows it's not an invitation he's seeking. He steps into the cabin, his boots leaving dark marks on the wooden floor. His eyes scan the room, landing on the fire burning low in the hearth. The rough table and the worn chairs. He's seen it all before, 1,000 times over. Poverty, the silence. "I'm listening," she says, though she doesn't feel like she is. She can barely hear her own voice over the pounding of her heart. The sheriff doesn't sit. Instead, he stands, his hands resting on his hips, eyes narrowing. Where is he? She knows who he means. The scout. The man who disappeared without a trace. The man she can't explain, even to herself. "I told you before," she replies, her voice too tight, too thick. "I don't know where he went." The sheriff's gaze hardens. That's not what I'm hearing. People talk. People know he was here. They say he left something behind, but not without reason. A man like that doesn't just vanish. Her fingers curl into the fabric of her dress, the simple movement enough to steady her. I don't know why he left. I told you. He just left. The sheriff eyes her, like he's searching for the cracks in her words, for the lie buried deep. He takes a step closer, his boots scraping against the floor. He's so close now, she can smell the faint scent of tobacco and sweat on his coat. Maybe you don't know the whole truth, he says, his voice lowering. But I do. The scout's been in trouble before, hasn't he? You don't just forget a man like that. He's got a past. A dangerous one. She shifts uncomfortably, but she doesn't back away. I don't know anything about his past, she says, and this time, her voice cracks. She doesn't want to say more, doesn't want him to ask what she doesn't know, but the sheriff's eyes don't leave hers. They cut through her, like he's trying to pull the truth out of her skin. You're lying, he says softly, almost to himself. The silence between them stretches, heavy and thick. The tension in the air is almost suffocating. She wants to scream at him to leave, to stop digging into a wound that's already festered too long. But she doesn't. Instead, she lowers her gaze, unable to meet his eyes any longer. I'm not lying, she whispers, her voice barely audible. The sheriff sighs, his patience thinning. Maybe not. But you're keeping something from me, and it's my job to find out what that is. She shakes her head, her hand trembling as she folds her arms tightly around her chest. I told you everything. There's nothing else to tell. The sheriff stares at her for another long moment, like he's trying to break her open with his gaze. Finally, he steps back, turning toward the door. The sound of his boots scraping the floor feels like the loudest thing she's heard in years. Let me know if you change your mind, he says, his voice now cold, distant. He steps out onto the porch, his shadow looming in the doorway before he turns and walks down the steps without another word. She doesn't follow him. She doesn't watch him leave. Instead, she stands there, frozen, in place, the weight of his visit settling heavily on her chest. She doesn't know how long she stays like that, standing in the middle of the cabin, her hands still gripping her arms. The silence creeps in again. But this time, it feels different, more suffocating. When she finally lowers her arms, she looks around the cabin, seeing it through the sheriff's eyes. The quiet, the solitude, it's nothing to hide behind. There's no protection here. She goes to the window and peers outside, but the sheriff is already gone, his figure swallowed by the road. She doesn't know if he'll come back. She doesn't know if he'll keep pushing. All she knows is that the questions are starting to get too loud. They echo through the empty rooms, the empty spaces where no one else can hear them. She goes back to the table, to the fire, but she doesn't sit. She just stands there, staring into the flames, her mind racing with unanswered questions, with the sheriff's words still hanging in the air. She doesn't know what he'll do next, but she knows one thing for certain. Things are about to change. The wind stirs outside, a distant rumble of thunder on the horizon. She stands at the window, watching the trees bend and sway, their branches creaking like old bones. It's a storm. She can feel it in the air, heavy, pressing, like something is about to break. She's been alone for so long now, the quiet her only companion. The fire crackles softly in the hearth, but it does little to keep the cold from creeping in. Her son is asleep in the corner, curled up in a blanket, his quiet breathing the only other sound in the house. Then she hears it. The sound of hooves, slow and deliberate, pressing into the earth. She turns quickly, her heart jolting in her chest. It's too early for visitors. No one comes this far out. Her breath catches in her throat as she watches the figure approach through the dimming light. A man, a familiar shape, though different somehow. He's back. The scout. But he's not the same. She opens the door before she can stop herself, her fingers trembling on the rough wood. The figure stops in front of her, and for a moment, neither of them speaks. He stands tall, his face harder than she remembers. His eyes are darker, haunted by something she can't quite place. His clothes are torn, worn, but the same rifle hangs from his back. He's a ghost, and yet he's here, real and breathing. He doesn't say her name. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't offer any explanation. He just stands there, looking at her. And then, as if it's nothing, He pulls a small figure from the saddle and sets the child on the ground beside him. A girl, silent. Her small face is hidden by a mop of tangled dark hair, but the way she stands, with her head slightly tilted and her gaze fixed on the ground, sends a chill through the woman. "She's mine," the scout says quietly, almost as an afterthought. The words settle between them like dust in the still air. She looks at him, then at the child, her heart hammering in her chest. The silence stretches on, thick and uncomfortable. She doesn't know what to say. She doesn't know what to feel. There's a part of her that wants to scream, to demand answers, to ask why he left and why he's returned now, after all this time. But all she can do is stand there, watching as the child looks up at her with wide, dark eyes, eyes that remind her of someone she used to know. "Who is she?" she finally asks, her voice steady but laced with a quiet fear she can't hide. She's mine," he repeats, though his voice falters for a moment. The words seem strange, distant, as if he's speaking about something he can't fully understand. The woman doesn't respond. Instead, she steps aside, allowing them both inside, though she doesn't know why. Perhaps it's the years of waiting, the years of longing for answers that have finally worn her down. Or perhaps it's just the weight of the unspoken bond that still exists between them, broken as it may be. The scout follows her inside, and the girl lingers near the door, her eyes darting around the room, taking in the space like she's never seen anything like it before. For a moment, the woman wonders if she should say something, anything, to break the heavy tension. But she can't. She can't find the words. She feels like an outsider in her own life, in her own home. The scout sits down at the table, but he doesn't speak. The woman stands there, looking at him, feeling the distance between them stretch further than it's ever been. The fire crackles in the hearth, but the warmth it provides doesn't reach her. The girl, still silent, moves to the far corner of the room, sitting down on the floor with her back to the wall. Her small form is a dark shadow in the dim light, and the way she curls in on herself, like she's trying to become smaller, makes the woman's heart ache. "What happened?" she asks finally, her voice barely above a whisper. The question feels so small compared to the years of silence, but it's all she has. The scout doesn't meet her gaze. "I couldn't come back. I had to leave. There were things that couldn't be undone." He pauses, running a hand over his face. "And then she came." The way he says it makes it sound like an afterthought, like the girl is nothing more than a consequence of something he couldn't control. But the woman knows better. She knows the weight of the years between them, the lives they've each lived without the other. The silence that follows is suffocating. She wants to ask more. She wants to demand answers. But she doesn't. The words are caught in her throat, heavy and useless. She can feel the years of resentment, of grief, bubbling beneath the surface. But she holds it all in. The girl moves again, this time slowly standing up and approaching her. She looks up at the woman, her expression unreadable. There's something familiar about her, something that feels like a twisted reflection of the past. But the woman can't place it. Not yet. The scout rises from the table, his chair scraping against the floor. He moves toward the door, stepping outside again without a word. The woman watches him go, his figure swallowed by the darkening world outside. And in the silence that follows, she is left with the girl, silent, distant, and yet somehow tied to the past that haunts her still. She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know who this child is or what she's meant to represent. But one thing is certain. Everything has changed. The quiet of the cabin feels thicker than before, heavier with the weight of unspoken things. The fire crackles in the hearth, casting flickering shadows on the walls. She sits at the table, her hands folded in front of her, watching as the two children move around the room. The scout's daughter is small, no older than her own son, but there's something unsettling in the way she carries herself, her eyes never meeting anyone for long, her movements cautious, like she's waiting for something to happen. Her son, on the other hand, is different. He's been different since the moment the girl stepped through the door. She sees it in the way he watches her, protective but distant, like he's trying to make sense of a puzzle he doesn't understand. "What's wrong with her?" he asks, his voice hesitant, a quiet curiosity laced with something else, fear maybe, or concern. The woman looks at the girl. The girl sits by the window, her back to them, staring out into the darkness like she's waiting for something to come for her. "She's just like you," the woman says, trying to sound calm, but her words feel like they're hanging in the air, fragile and unconvincing. She's just been through a lot. Her son doesn't seem convinced. He steps closer to the girl, but she doesn't acknowledge him. Her gaze stays fixed on the night outside, her small hands clenched in her lap. The woman watches them both, a tightness in her chest that won't loosen. The connection between them is undeniable, even if it doesn't make sense. He's protective, that much is clear, but she wonders if he knows more than he's letting on. The door creaks open, and the scout enters, his shadow filling the doorway. He looks tired, his face weathered and drawn, the same as it was when he left. But there's something darker about him now, a weight in his eyes that wasn't there before. He looks at her son, then at the girl, who still hasn't moved. "She's quiet," the woman says, her voice softer than she intends. The scout says nothing. He doesn't need to. He's been silent all along. He steps past them, moving toward the back of the cabin, and the woman watches him go. Her son follows the girl's movements, eyes flicking nervously to her, then back to the door where the scout disappeared. There's a strange pull between the two children, something that feels like it's already been written, like their bond was formed long before either of them understood it. "They're different," her son says finally, his voice full of uncertainty. "Why'd he bring her here?" The question hangs in the air, unanswered, and the woman doesn't know if she should offer an explanation. She doesn't even know if she can. What does it mean that he brought a second child? What does it mean for her son? She feels like she's standing on the edge of something deep, something dark, and she can't pull herself away. The girl moves suddenly, standing up and walking toward the small stack of firewood by the door. Her movements are quick and fluid, like she's always in motion, always watching. Her eyes, though, they don't seem to belong to someone her age. They're too knowing, too watchful. They seem to see everything but never speak. Her son follows her, a silent protector, but she doesn't seem to notice him. She picks up a piece of wood, her small hands brushing against the rough bark. The fire crackles in the hearth again, louder this time, and the girl flinches, her eyes darting toward the flames before quickly turning back to the window. The woman feels the weight of the unspoken truth settling between them, thickening the air. The second child is here for a reason. She just doesn't know what it is yet. She stands up slowly, crossing the room to where her son stands, watching the girl. He doesn't look at her, doesn't ask for any comfort. He's too lost in his own thoughts, in his need to protect. She places a hand on his shoulder, but he doesn't flinch. "Don't worry about her," she says, though she doesn't believe it herself. "We'll figure it out." But the doubt in her voice makes her son look at her for the first time in days. His eyes are wide, searching for something in hers, but he doesn't find it. She can feel his confusion, his need for answers that she doesn't have. "Why is she like that?" he asks again, his voice quieter this time. The woman sighs. "I don't know," she says honestly. "But we'll protect her, just like we protect each other." He nods, though it doesn't seem to comfort him. He turns back to the girl who is still staring out the window, her face unreadable. The silence settles again, but now it's different. The quiet between the woman and her son is no longer comforting. It's too full of questions, too full of things that cannot be said. In the corner, the girl shifts, her eyes flicking toward the woman and her son, but she says nothing. There's something in her gaze, though, a flicker of recognition, maybe, or a warning. But whatever it is, it's buried too deep for them to see. Her son moves closer to her, standing tall beside her as if trying to shield her from something. The weight of their bond, of their family, pulls them together in a way that feels right, but also terrifying. The second child is here, and with her comes a mystery that neither of them understands. The fire crackles again, and the woman wonders if this is just the beginning. If the quiet, the protection, the bond they share is about to be tested in ways they couldn't have imagined. The cabin feels different today, quieter, as if the walls are listening. She finds herself pacing, her hands restless at her sides. The letter was tucked into a faded leather pouch among the scout's things, hidden under layers of rough fabric and forgotten dust. She's never been one for secrets, but something about this one gnaws at her, pulling her closer. She picks up the crumpled paper, the edges worn and fragile from time. She unfolds it slowly, her eyes scanning the shaky handwriting. It's uneven, scribbled quickly, and yet there's something familiar about it, something that feels like it's meant for her, though she can't say why. The words blur together, twisted, but the meaning is clear enough. For the future of the child, a debt to be paid. Do not ask questions, do not seek me out. Her hands tremble as she reads the words again, the ink smudged in places, as if the writer had been in a hurry. She runs her fingers over the paper, feeling the weight of it. She wants to tear it up, throw it into the fire and forget it, but she can't. The words are like a stone lodged in her chest. When the debt is called, you will understand. She is not the one you think. The last line hits her like a slap. The girl, the second child. She is not the one she thinks. What does that mean? She folds the letter again, the paper creaking under the pressure. Her mind races, spinning, but she doesn't know where to go with the thoughts. Betrayal lingers in the words, but so does a sense of duty, of something owed. She doesn't want to believe it, doesn't want to confront whatever darkness the scout is hiding, but she can't ignore it. Not now. She hears the soft shuffle of footsteps behind her. Her son enters the room, his face clouded with confusion, his eyes flicking to the letter in her hands. "Mama?" he asks, his voice tentative. "What's that?" She holds it out to him, but he doesn't reach for it. Instead, he steps closer, eyes narrowing, sensing the weight in the air. "It's nothing," she says quickly, stuffing the letter into her pocket. "Just a piece of paper." But he doesn't buy it. "Mama," he says again, more forcefully this time. "What is it?" She sighs, lowering her head. "It's just something from the scout. A letter." His eyes widen, and he takes a step back. "What's it say?" She hesitates. He's seen too much already. She doesn't want him to know the truth. Not yet. Not when she barely understands it herself. "I don't know," she says softly. "It's not important." But he's already moving, his curiosity too strong to ignore. He crosses the room, too. The small chest by the wall, the one where the scout's things are stored. His hands fumble with the latch, but before she can stop him, he opens it. Inside, he finds the remnants of the scout's life. Worn clothing, old maps, a rifle, and another letter. He holds it up to her, his eyes searching for answers. "What's this one?" She doesn't know what to say. How can she explain what she doesn't understand herself? Before she can respond, the girl enters, her soft footsteps barely audible. She stands in the doorway, watching them both, her gaze steady and unfathomable. Her presence is unsettling, a quiet tension in the air. The woman feels her son tense beside her, instinctively protective, though he doesn't know why. "I found it," the girl says, her voice flat, emotionless. "You should read it." The woman stares at her, her heart pounding. The girl holds out the letter, her small hands steady. "What do you know about this?" the woman asks, her voice barely a whisper. The girl doesn't answer. She just stands there, her eyes locked on the woman's, her silence heavier than words could ever be. Her son steps forward, taking the letter from the girl's hands. He looks up at the woman, then at the scout's daughter. "What's this mean, Mama?" The woman shakes her head. "I don't know." The letter is crumpled, old, its ink faded. But there's something about it, something familiar in the way the words are written, in the way the letters bleed into each other. She feels the weight of the secrets behind it, and it terrifies her. She can't ignore it any longer. She unfolds the letter carefully, the paper crackling in her hands. The handwriting is the same as the first one, but the message is different. "The time has come. She must be protected, but not by you. The debt is now yours to pay." The words hit her like a blow to the chest. Her breath catches, and she looks up at her son, who's still watching her closely. He doesn't understand, but he feels the tension in the air. He's learned too much already. And the girl, she's watching too, her expression unreadable. There's something between them, something unspoken that neither the woman nor her son can comprehend. She folds the letter back up, her hands shaking. Her thoughts are a mess, and all she can think about is the scout, the things he left behind, the things he never explained, the debt, the girl, the future. "What does it mean, Mama?" her son asks again, his voice quiet, almost fearful. She can't answer him. She doesn't know what to say. The secrets are too deep, too tangled, and all she can do is watch as the two children grow closer, sharing an understanding that neither she nor the scout can explain. The fire crackles in the hearth, and for a moment, everything feels distant, like they're all caught in a web they can't escape. The air is thick, heavy with the kind of stillness that settles in before a storm. The woman walks ahead, her feet sinking into the soft earth as she makes her way through the cemetery. Her son trails behind her, his small boots crunching over the grass, each step hesitant. The scout's daughter follows quietly, her head bowed, eyes never straying far from the ground. The cemetery, a forgotten plot of land at the edge of town, feels different today. It's not just the dampness in the air or the shifting clouds overhead. There's something else, something that unsettles her deep in her chest. She moves past the older graves, the ones worn down by time, their markings barely legible. The wind whispers through the trees, the low hum of it filling the silence. Each grave they pass seems to speak its own unspoken story, a life lived, a death endured, a history buried in the earth. She can't help but think of the people who once tended to these graves, the families who placed the stones and walked away. There's a heaviness in the air, a feeling of abandonment, of things forgotten and left behind. "Why are we here, Mama?" Her son's voice breaks the silence, his words small but sharp. He's never liked this place. He's always stayed away from it, even when they passed it on the way to town. "We're here to remember," she says, though she can't find the words to make it sound real. What is there to remember? The past is full of ghosts, of things she's tried to bury herself. "Remember who?" he pressed, his voice tinged with curiosity. Her eyes flick to the girl, who hasn't spoken a word since they left the cabin. She's standing a few paces behind, her small hands clasped tightly in front of her. The woman wants to ask her what she knows, but she doesn't. She doesn't think she's ready for the answer. She turns away from the girl and continues walking, her son falling into step beside her. She leads them toward the back of the cemetery, where the graves are older, where the names are harder to read, and the stones are weathered by years of neglect. She can feel the weight of it all, the unspoken stories, the things left unremembered. They reach the farthest corner of the cemetery, where the graves are nearly lost to the earth. A single row of stones marks the boundary, and there, in the dirt, she spots something strange. At first, she thinks it's just another grave, another forgotten soul, but when she looks closer, she sees the name: John Carter. Her heart stops and she feels a shiver run down her spine. She stares at the name, her breath catching in her throat. There's no marking, no engraving, just the faintest traces of a name that shouldn't be here. John Carter. She kneels down, her knees sinking into the soft earth. Her son stands beside her, his eyes wide, confused. "Who is that, Mama?" She doesn't answer right away. She runs her fingers over the stone, feeling the rough edges, the coldness of it. There's a sense of familiarity that she can't shake, an eerie feeling that crawls up her spine. She remembers the scout, remembers the way he spoke of his past in half-formed words, of debts owed and secrets kept. But this name, it's too much to bear. The girl steps closer, her eyes fixed on the stone. She's standing at a distance, her posture stiff, but her gaze doesn't waver. "Who is he?" the woman asks, though the question isn't meant for the girl. It's a question for the land, for the earth beneath her, for the ghosts that linger here. The girl doesn't answer. Instead, she looks at the woman, her expression unreadable. There's a weight in her eyes, a sense of something ancient and buried. She steps forward, and for a moment, the woman feels an odd connection between them. The girl's presence here, beside this grave, feels like it was meant to be. Without a word, the girl kneels down beside the woman, her hands resting on the stone. Her fingers trace the edges of the unmarked grave, as though she's done it 1,000 times before. The woman watches her, a strange chill creeping over her skin. "Who is she?" her son asks, his voice barely above a whisper, his fear palpable. "I don't know," the woman says quietly, though the words feel hollow. Her eyes dart back to the grave, to the name that she now knows is the key to something bigger, something darker. She feels the weight of the past pressed on her chest, the ghosts of those who've been forgotten and those who've never been spoken of. "Why is he buried here?" she asks, though she doesn't know who she's asking. The question hangs in the air, unanswered. The wind rustles the leaves, and for a moment she thinks she hears a voice, soft and distant, like a whisper from the past. Her son steps forward, his small hand resting on her shoulder. "Mama, I don't like this place." She doesn't respond. The past has a way of making its presence known when you least expect it. The debts of the past, the secrets buried in the earth, they are all starting to surface now, and she doesn't know how to stop it. "Who was he?" she asks the girl again, but the girl doesn't answer. She doesn't need to. Her silence is an answer in itself. The wind picks up, and the sky darkens. The cemetery feels alive now, as though the earth is stirring beneath them, as though the graves are awakening from a long sleep. The woman stands slowly, her hands still resting on the cold stone, and she feels the weight of it all, the ghosts, the secrets, the silence that has always surrounded her. "This is where it starts," she whispers to herself. Her son looks up at her, his eyes wide with confusion, but she doesn't explain. She can't. There's no explanation for what she's feeling. The ghosts of the past are here now, speaking to her, and she doesn't know if they're trying to warn her or guide her. But she knows one thing for certain. The truth is buried here, in this soil, and she's about to uncover it. The evening settles over the cabin, the last remnants of light slipping away as the fire casts long shadows across the room. The air is thick with something unspoken, and she knows it's time. She feels it deep in her bones, the weight of the truth that's been held back for so long. The scout is sitting across from her, his gaze distant, his face more weathered than she remembers. He hasn't said much since he returned, his silence heavier than ever. But tonight, there's a shift. His eyes meet hers, dark and worn, and he speaks for the first time in days. "I owe you an explanation," he says, his voice rough, like it hasn't been used in a long time. The woman doesn't respond immediately, her heart beating faster than she wants to admit. She doesn't know what he's about to say, but she knows it's something that will change everything. He leans forward slightly, his hands folded in his lap. His shoulders are stiff, tense. It's as though the weight of the years is pressing down on him, and finally, he can't hold it back any longer. "I wasn't just passing through," he says, his voice low. "I was running from my past." The woman stays silent, waiting for him to continue. She wants to ask questions, to demand the truth, but she doesn't. Not yet. He takes a breath, his eyes flicking to the fire, as though searching for the right words. "My tribe, my people, they don't forget, they don't forgive. I betrayed them, and I left. I had no choice." The words come slowly, jagged, as though they've been locked away for too long. She watches him closely, but there's something in his tone, in the way he avoids her gaze, that doesn't sit right. She can feel the lie hanging in the air, like an unfinished sentence. "Betrayed them?" she asks softly, her voice careful, probing. He doesn't meet her eyes. His gaze stays fixed on the fire. "I made a choice that tore everything apart. I thought I was doing what was best, but I was wrong." The woman leans forward, her fingers tightening around the edge of the table. "What did you do?" He glances at her, but his expression hardens. There's a darkness in his eyes, something raw and painful, but he doesn't share it with her. "It's not something you'd understand," he says, his voice harsh. "I'm listening," she says, her voice steady despite the unease creeping into her chest. He shifts uncomfortably, his jaw tightening. "I killed a man," he admits, his voice barely above a whisper. She's taken aback by the suddenness of it, the bluntness of the confession. She doesn't know what to say. The weight of his words hangs in the air, thick and suffocating. She feels the sting of betrayal, but it's not for herself. It's for the child he left behind, for the family he abandoned. "I thought I could leave it behind," he continued, his voice raw, "but it followed me. It always follows." He looks at her then, his eyes pleading for understanding, but there's nothing in his gaze that feels real. She doesn't know what to believe. His story doesn't add up. He's hiding something, and she can feel it in the pit of her stomach. There's a gap in his words, a space where the truth should be. But it isn't. She leans back, her mind racing. "Why didn't you come back sooner?" she asks, her voice cold now, as though she's already started to withdraw. His face hardens again. He looks at her, but there's no softness in his gaze. "I couldn't," he says simply. "I couldn't face what I left behind, and when I did, it was too late. There was no going back." The woman holds his gaze, feeling the weight of his words. But there's something more, something deeper that she can't put her finger on. She wants to believe him, but she's not sure she can. There's too much darkness in his story, too many unanswered questions. She looks down at the floor, her mind swirling with doubt. The fire crackles, the only sound in the room as she processes what he said. "What about her?" she asks suddenly, her voice tight. "What about the girl? Why did you bring her here?" The scout's expression falters for a moment, and she sees the flicker of something in his eyes, something that almost looks like fear, but it disappears as quickly as it came. "She's a part of it," he says quietly, his voice so soft she almost doesn't hear it. "She's a part of my past, and I couldn't leave her behind." She doesn't ask any more questions. She can't. The answers he's giving her are only half-formed, a jagged puzzle that she can't fit together. She wants the truth, the whole truth, but it's locked inside him, buried under years of silence. The fire dies down, and the room grows colder. She stands, her legs stiff from sitting too long, and walks toward the window. The night outside is still, the world beyond the cabin quiet and empty. She feels the weight of everything, the past, the present, the future, all pressing down on her. "I don't know if I can believe you," she says, her voice steady but heavy with the weight of her doubt. The scout doesn't reply. He doesn't need to. The silence between them is enough. The story he's told is incomplete, and she knows it. There's more to the past, more to his betrayal, and she's not sure she's ready to face it. For now, though, she's not sure if she ever will. The night is heavy, thick with tension that feels like it's been building for years. The wind howls outside, rattling the walls of the cabin, but inside, the air is still. The fire crackles in the hearth, its flickering flames casting long shadows across the room. The woman stands by the window, looking out into the darkness. She can feel it, the weight of the past pressing down on her, suffocating her. She doesn't know how long she's been standing there, lost in thought, but when she turns back, she sees him, the scout, sitting at the table, his face drawn and tired. There's something different about him now, something she can't quite place. The return of the second child, the girl, has shifted the balance in the cabin, and the unease that's been simmering between them has reached a breaking point. "I don't understand," she says, her voice low but sharp, breaking the silence between them. He doesn't look up. His gaze is fixed on the fire, his hands resting on the table in front of him. "You brought her here," she continues, her voice trembling with frustration. "But you never said why. What does she mean? What does she have to do with us?" The scout's jaw tightens, and for a moment, the room feels colder. The fire crackles again, but it does nothing to ease the chill that settled between them. "She's just a child," he says quietly, but there's something in his voice, something that doesn't match the words. The woman feels a rush of anger, a tide of emotion that's been building inside her for too long. "A child? You think I'm going to believe that? After everything you've kept from me?" He stands suddenly, his chair scraping across the floor as he moves toward her. His eyes are dark, his movements sharp. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to come back. You think I don't know the weight of all of this, of what I left behind?" She takes a step back, her chest tight, her breath shallow. "Then why are you here? Why now? What is it that you want from me?" The tension between them crackles in the air, thick and suffocating. She feels it in her bones, the pull of something dark, something that's been lurking in the shadows, waiting for this moment. Before she can say anything else, she hears it, a sound that cuts through the air like a scream, a crackling, the snap of dry wood breaking, followed by the smell of smoke. The woman turns, her heart racing as the acrid smell fills the cabin. She runs to the door, flinging it open, and the world outside is alive with fire. The flames are high, licking at the trees, the dry grass crackling and snapping in the wind. It's a fire too close for comfort, and it's spreading fast. She doesn't hesitate. She grabs her son, pulling him toward the door, her mind racing as the heat from the flames begins to press against the walls. "Get out!" she shouts. "Get out of here!" But as she moves toward the door, she sees the scout standing there, his face pale as he watches the fire spread. His eyes flick to the girl who's standing near the window, her expression unreadable. The woman feels a jolt of fear. "You did this," she says, her voice low and dangerous. "Didn't you? You said it." The scout doesn't answer immediately, his eyes flicking back and forth between the woman and the fire. Finally, he turns toward her, his face unreadable. It wasn't meant to be like this. The fire roars outside, its heat now pressing against the walls of the cabin. The smoke is thick, choking, and the air is growing heavy. The woman stumbles back, her breath coming in short gasps. She wants to scream at him, to demand the truth, but all she can do is watch as the flames dance outside, consuming everything in their path. The scout doesn't move. He's frozen, like he's watching something unfold that he has no control over. The woman turns to the girl, who is still standing by the window, her face expressionless as if she's waiting for something. "Why?" the woman breathes, her voice shaking. "What's happening? Why is this happening?" The girl doesn't answer. She doesn't speak at all, but there's something in her eyes, a recognition maybe, or something darker. The weight of the past, of the things that are buried in this place, hangs over them all. The woman feels a rush of panic as the flames draw closer. She pulls her son toward the door, but before they can make it, the scout steps forward. "We need to go," he says, his voice strained. "Then help me," she cries, her frustration boiling over. "You think this is just an accident? You think this fire is just some random thing? This is your past. This is what you've brought back with you." The scout looks at her, his eyes filled with something dark, something that makes her skin crawl. He doesn't answer, but his silence is louder than any words could be. And then, as the fire rages outside, she realizes the truth. The fire was no accident. It's a warning that something has been unleashed, something that they can't escape. She pulls her son closer, her heart pounding as the world outside is consumed by flames. The past is burning away before them, and there's no turning back. The scout's past, his choices, his debts, they're all coming to the surface now, and they can't outrun it. The woman looks back at the scout one last time, her eyes searching for something, an explanation, an answer, but she knows she won't find it. The fire is too loud, too close, and the past is too deep. There's no way to stop it now. The flames rise higher, and the world outside is consumed by fire. The sun is low in the sky, casting long shadows over the land as the woman walks across the property. Her boots sink into the earth with each step, the weight of her thoughts heavy on her mind. She's been searching for days now, but nothing feels real. Not since the fire, not since the scout's return, and certainly not since the discovery of the unmarked grave. Her eyes scan the land around her, the open fields that stretch out toward the horizon. The trees stand still, their branches bare, the silence of the land oppressive. She's been here for years, but now everything feels different. There's something beneath the surface, something hidden just out of reach. She's been told nothing of the well, nothing of its existence. But today, something inside her drives her forward. She feels the pull, the need to uncover what's been buried here, to find the truth that's been hidden away. As she moves deeper into the woods, the familiar trees begin to change, the air growing cooler, heavier. She hears a sound, a soft echo of water running somewhere beneath her feet. The ground feels damp, and the smell of earth fills her nostrils. She follows the sound, her steps growing quicker, the tension in her chest rising. There's something about the way the earth feels beneath her now, like it's alive with secrets, with memories that haven't been spoken in too long. And then she sees it. The well. It's half hidden by thick, overgrown vines, the stones cracked and weathered by time. The structure of it is old, older than the house, older than the land perhaps. She kneels down, her fingers brushing against the rough stones, the moisture seeping into her skin. There's something about it that unsettles her. What was the scout doing here? What was he hiding? She stands slowly, turning around to find the two children standing behind her. Her son is looking at the well with an expression she can't quite place, something between curiosity and fear. The scout's daughter stands next to him, her eyes locked on the well, her gaze distant, as though she's seeing something the woman can't. "They've been here," the woman murmurs, more to herself than anyone else. She feels the weight of the words in her chest, the unspoken truth that has always lingered just beneath the surface. Her son steps closer, his hand reaching for the edge of the well. "What is it?" he asks, his voice low and uncertain. The woman hesitates. "It's a well," she says, though the words feel hollow. "But there's something more to it, something we don't understand." The scout's daughter moves closer, her small fingers brushing the stones of the well. Her expression is unreadable, but there's a stillness in her eyes, a quiet recognition that makes the woman's stomach tighten. Suddenly, the girl steps back, her face pale, her eyes wide. "I've seen it," she says softly, her voice distant. "It's in the water." The woman turns to her, confusion flooding her. "What do you mean?" The girl doesn't respond. Instead, she closes her eyes, her small hands trembling at her sides. She's not speaking anymore, but her silence speaks louder than words ever could. Her son moves to her side, his brow furrowed. "What's in the water, Mama?" The woman doesn't know how to answer. She doesn't know what the girl means, but there's something in the way the girl's eyes have glazed over, something in the way the air feels thicker, that makes her feel like they're on the edge of something, a truth, a memory, a history long buried. The water inside the well ripples, disturbed by the faintest breeze, and for a moment, the woman feels a chill run through her. There's something down there, something deep, beneath the surface. She doesn't know what it is, but she knows it's important. Her heart pounds as the silence stretches on. It's not just the well that's calling to her, it's the past, the memories that have been buried for too long. She knows the answers are down there, hidden in the water, in the stones, in the land itself, but she doesn't know if she's ready to face them. Suddenly, her son speaks again, his voice quiet but filled with a sense of wonder. "I saw it too," he says, looking up at her. "In the water. There's something moving down there." The woman's breath catches in her throat. Her son's words hit her like a blow, the weight of them sinking in. He saw it too. The girl's gaze lifts to meet the woman's, and for the first time, her expression softens, almost as if she's trying to convey something, to share the weight of the moment, but the woman still doesn't understand. "What did you see?" she asks, her voice desperate for an answer. The girl looks at the well, her lips parting as though she's about to speak, but then she shakes her head. "It's not mine to say," she whispers. "It's yours." The woman stands frozen for a moment, her eyes locked on the girl. There's a sense of finality in her words, a weight of something ancient and haunting. She doesn't know if she's ready for this. She turns back to the well, her fingers brushing the stones again, feeling the rough texture under her fingertips. What was hidden here? What secret did the scout bury? What did the children see that she could not? She takes a deep breath and looks down into the darkened water. The surface ripples again, and for a moment she swears she can see something moving beneath. But when she looks closer, it's gone. The water is still once more, its secrets hidden once again beneath the surface. But she knows now. The well is not just a symbol of what's buried in the earth. It's a symbol of what's buried in her, a truth that's been waiting to surface, waiting for her to find it. And now, she's ready. The past is calling her, and she won't be able to turn away. The wind outside howls against the cabin, a persistent scream that shakes the walls. The woman stands at the window, her hands clenched into fists at her sides, her mind racing. She can feel the weight of the decision bearing down on her, heavy and suffocating. It's too much to comprehend, too much to bear. The scout is sitting across from her, his face drawn, his eyes dark with the burden of what he's revealed. His past, his war-torn life, has spilled out between them like an open wound, a part of him she never knew existed, and now she can't unsee it. The truth is out, but it doesn't feel like a relief. It feels like a promise of something worse to come. The girl, the scout's daughter, sits quietly beside the fire, her expression distant. She hasn't spoken since the last revelation, her silence weighing heavier with each passing moment. Her small hands are folded tightly in her lap, her eyes fixed on the flames as if she can see something beyond them, something the woman cannot. Her son is beside her, his presence a small comfort in the midst of all this confusion. But even he seems different now, his once innocent questions giving way to a quiet, growing understanding of the danger that surrounds them. "You need to tell me everything," the woman says, her voice steady but filled with a desperation she can't hide. She doesn't look at the scout, but she can feel his gaze on her, heavy and knowing. "I've told you all I can," he replies, his voice hoarse. "There are things I can't say, not yet. Not until the time is right." She turns to face him, her eyes narrowing. "You think this is the right time? You think I can wait any longer?" The fire crackles in the background, the only sound filling the room as the tension between them grows. She takes a step toward him, her hand gripping the edge of the table as she leans in, her voice low but sharp. "You brought us all here. You brought them into this. I don't even know who you are anymore." His face darkens, his jaw tightening. "I'm the man who did what was necessary to protect them," he says, his eyes flicking toward the girl. "And now, I'm the man who has to finish what I started." She feels a cold shiver run through her, the air thickening with the weight of his words. She knows what he's talking about. Whatever this power struggle is, whatever this debt is that he owes, it's coming to a head, and she's standing at the center of it with no way out. "I've spent years running from this," he continues, his voice low, almost to himself. "But there's no more running. The past doesn't forget, and it doesn't forgive." The woman steps back, her breath shallow as she tries to process it all. The past is here now. It's always been here, and it's not going away. The choices they make will decide everything. "I won't let you drag them into this," she says firmly, though the words taste like ash in her mouth. "I won't let this place claim them." He looks at her then, really looks at her, and for a brief moment, she sees something in his eyes, a flicker of regret, of pain. But it's gone as quickly as it came, buried beneath layers of things he refuses to confront. "You don't have a choice," he says, his voice colder now. "You've already made it. All that's left is the price." The words hit her like a physical blow, and she feels the weight of them settle in her chest. The price. What is the price? What is she supposed to sacrifice? Her family? Her life? Everything she's worked for? Everything she's fought to protect? Is it all going to crumble away in the face of a past she didn't even know existed? Her son looks up at her, his eyes wide, filled with uncertainty. "Mama, what's going to happen?" She can't answer him. She doesn't know what's going to happen. All she knows is that something is coming, something dark, something bigger than all of them, and it's going to destroy whatever piece they've managed to hold on to. The girl stands suddenly, moving toward the door, her small form graceful and quiet. She doesn't look back as she steps outside, leaving them all behind. The woman watches her go, a tightness in her throat. "Don't follow her," the scout warns, but the woman doesn't need to hear him. She knows. She goes to the door anyway. Her son's hand reaches out for her, but she shakes her head, a silent promise that she will return. The air outside is cooler, the wind biting at her skin as she steps into the night. The girl is standing by the edge of the property, staring out into the darkness. The woman walks toward her slowly, her steps heavy with the weight of what's to come. "What do you want?" she asks, her voice softer than she expects. The girl doesn't turn around, but there's a shift in the air, as if she can feel the woman's presence without needing to look. "You can't stop it," the girl says, her voice low, almost a whisper. "It's already been decided." The woman's breath catches in her throat. What's been decided? The girl turns to her then, her eyes meeting hers, empty but full of something else, something ancient, something the woman can't grasp. "The choice," the girl says simply. "It's your choice. It's always been your choice." The wind picks up again, the howling filling the silence between them. The woman stands there, frozen, as the weight of the moment presses down on her. Her mind races with the implications, with the responsibility she's always carried, and the sacrifice she's about to make. There's no turning back now. The past is burning away before her, but the cost of moving forward is steep, and she knows that when it's over, nothing will ever be the same. She swallows, a bitter taste in her mouth. There's no more time for hesitation. The sacrifice has been made, and she can feel it in her bones. The land is demanding its due. The question is, Who will survive the cost? The cabin is quiet, too quiet. The fire crackles softly in the hearth, casting a warm glow on the woman's face, but the warmth doesn't reach her. She sits at the table, her hands folded in front of her, her eyes fixed on the flickering flames. Her son is asleep in the corner, the same peaceful expression he's worn since the first night she held him in her arms. The scout's daughter is gone now, out there, somewhere in the world, a part of the past that can never be erased. The weight of everything presses down on her chest. She's done what needed to be done, or so she tells herself. But the cost of it, the silence she's kept for so long, the price of her choices, it all feels too much to bear. She looks down at her hands, fingers trembling as they rest on the table. The truth about the second child, about the girl, has been revealed. The girl is her daughter too, a child born of the land, of something darker, older than anything the woman has ever known. The scout's past, his debts, his betrayals, they've all come back, and she's the one who's paid the price. Her son stirs slightly in his sleep, a small whimper escaping his lips. She wants to reach for him, to pull him close and shield him from everything that's happened. But she can't. She knows now that there are some things she cannot protect him from, no matter how much she tries. The door creaks open, and she doesn't need to turn around to know who it is. He steps inside without a word, the shadow of his presence filling the room. The scout. He doesn't look at her, his gaze distant, like he's already gone, already lost to the past. "I'm leaving," he says finally, his voice low. She doesn't respond. She can't. The words feel like they have been stolen from her. She spent so long trying to hold it all together, trying to shield herself and her children from the truth, but the truth has never been so clear. She doesn't ask where he's going. She doesn't ask if he'll ever come back. She doesn't need to. She knows. "I thought I could fix it," he continues, his voice quieter now, almost to himself. "I thought if I came back, I could make it right. But there's no making it right, not anymore." She doesn't look at him. She can't. She can't let herself see the man he's become, the man who's haunted her every step since he left. "I'm sorry," he says, the words heavy, burdened with something he's never been able to share. "For everything. For the things I did. For the things I didn't do." She feels the ache in her chest, a deep, painful pull that threatens to swallow her whole. She wants to say something, anything, but the words don't come. What is there to say? There's nothing left. The silence has already said it all. He turns to leave, but something stops him. His eyes fall on her son, still asleep in the corner, his small chest rising and falling with each breath. "You did your best," he says quietly, though she doesn't know if it's for her or for himself. The door closes softly behind him, and the woman is left alone with the weight of everything that's happened, everything that's been said and unsaid. She can feel the past closing in on her, the ghosts of everything she's kept silent about, everything she's buried deep within herself. The truth has a way of finding its way to the surface, and when it does, it takes everything with it. She's paid the price for her silence, her complicity in the things she's allowed to remain buried, but the cost is more than just her peace of mind. It's the life she's built, the life her children have known, the foundation she's spent years trying to create. And now, everything is shifting. Her son wakes up, his eyes heavy with sleep as he looks around the room. He rubs his eyes, sitting up slowly. "Mama?" he asks, his voice small, uncertain. "Where's Pa?" She looks at him, her heart breaking. She can't protect him from the truth anymore. She can't shield him from what's been happening, from what's already been set in motion. "He's gone," she says softly, though the words taste like ashes in her mouth. He looks at her for a long moment, his eyes searching her face. He doesn't ask any more questions. He doesn't need to. He knows now, just like she does, that there are some things you can never outrun. The silence settles between them, thick and suffocating. She feels it in her bones, the weight of the past, the weight of the choices she's made. And then, without warning, her son reaches for her hand, his small fingers curling around hers. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't need to. The connection between them, the love they share, is enough to bridge the distance between them. In that moment, she knows that the past has caught up with her, that there's no escaping it. The truth has unraveled, and the only thing left is the quiet understanding that follows. The woman stands, pulling her son into her arms as they move toward the door. The world outside is waiting, but it's a world that's changed, a world where the ghosts of the past have been unearthed and there's no going back. But she knows one thing for certain: she will keep moving forward. The price of silence has been paid, and now she can begin again.